Hey, I'm Sarah Smith, family doctor, clinical day advisor, and the chatting coach. Welcome back to Sustainable Clinical Medicine podcast, where we're going to be interviewing peers or world experts who can help us think about our clinical day in a way that is more sustainable and create time for our lives outside of medicine. Hey, I appreciate you listening today. And just a reminder that if you go to chartingcoach.ca/giveaway, you could be in the running to win $150 towards one of our guest coach workshops. We will be drawing this every quarter. You only have to be in once to be in all 4 drawers. So don't forget chartingcoach.ca/giveaway. We'd love to celebrate you being a valued listener. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We have a very special episode for you today. We have with us Jabiz and Mary, who are both Charting Champion members, and I wanted to bring them on as a panel today to talk about their journeys, their before and after, and give you an opportunity to understand why they became members and what it looks like to be a physician working within clinical practice with some new tools and ideas. So welcome, both of you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Jabiz, you want to get started first for us?
Sure. My name is Jabiz Behzadpour. I'm an outpatient endocrinologist in the Southwest Chicago suburbs. I've been practicing for going on 3 years now, but I joined Charting Champion within my first 6 months because the transition from academics and fellowship to the real world was more rough than I expected, and it made a really big difference.
Got it. Thank you for that. And Mary.
Hi, I'm Moya. I am in San Diego and I am family medicine for the last 25 years. I have been teaching in a residency for the last 18. And while I absolutely love parts of my job, I was drowning in evenings and weekends of charting. And I was doing coaching. I had been introduced to coaching and I heard Sarah come on to an EWP podcast and talk about this charting champions. And I was a complete doubter. I was like, there's no way she doesn't understand. Like my clinic's harder than that. I was a doubter. So then 2 months later, you came back. And this time I was like, oh, maybe there's something to this. So that is how I got introduced. And that is how I've been here maybe 18 months or something and love it.
All right. So, Jabiz, I'm going to jump back into you early in career. What was happening for you within your clinical day that was challenging and that you were having trouble with?
So the interesting part is and as all physicians will relate, when we're in training, it's very normal to bring work home. And the hours that we work during training, that's just what I was carrying over, I feel like. And I was working from home because that's what I was used to. And my husband pointed out to me, who's not in medicine, he's like, this is not okay. People outside of medicine generally don't work outside of office hours. And I just didn't really think about it. My biggest thing was, so I have a a different story where I inherited a panel from a physician who left. So they started me off at my own pace, but they ramped me up pretty quickly. And I feel like the more patients I had, the less control I had over triaging what was important and what wasn't. And I thought the notes could wait because I needed to get the patient out of the room to see the next one. And I just didn't really have control. I let my patients control my day, I guess it would be a better way to put it.
Yeah, got it. What did that have as an impact for you in terms of your life while you were working, and then you said you have a husband at home? What did it look like to be an endocrinologist then?
I feel like I was kind of justifying it in my head of, and I love it because hindsight's 2020. Because in that moment, I was like, oh, like we don't have any kids, and I'm coming home to a husband, and he, like he gets it, and it's okay for me to be doing this. But now that I've kind of shifted my mindset and I get my work done on time, it's just so nice to come home and relax and eat dinner and not have to worry about logging on. I think that's the biggest thing, not having to worry about logging onto the computer after dinner is a very simple way, but it's just such a big shift.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a lot of evenings working. What did the weekends look like?
The weekends, oh gosh. I think the weekends were when I really delved in my in basket because my manager was really helpful in kind of helping me transition from education into hospital-based outpatient practice. Um, and she was really helping me with prioritizing finishing notes first, but then the basket was left to me on my own time. And I feel like my coworker it was 10 years my senior. So she had it down, she had a rhythm, and it was only me and her at that point. So I didn't really have anyone to look to for a model. So I was just kind of wading through this on my own.
Got it. Okay. So the systems and processes for emptying the in basket were really left to you to figure out. There wasn't anyone directing you specifically about what to do for each of the types of results or how long it should
And
take
I
you
feel
or
like
any of
when
that.
I reached out for help, it was either to my office manager or someone else not clinical, so they could
Yeah.
only help me so much. But actually, my prior fellowship peer, she was the one who told me about charting champion. So it took like a physician to physician to kind of help get me on the right track.
Got it. Okay. If you had stayed doing medicine the way you were doing it at that early stage, and we transported you 10 years in the future, what do you think you might have missed out on? What was it costing you to do it in that way?
That's a good question. I would say it's definitely costing me my free time. It's costing me my hobbies. I learned to pick up swimming because I had extra time, and it's one of those things of just having a say in what I do after hours versus one of the charting coaches that I listen to, she's like, you don't want to volunteer your time to the hospital. And I never thought about it like that, but that really stuck with me. I was like, I don't want to volunteer my time to the hospital. So kind of getting that time back for me to do what I want to do, mostly like hobbies and relaxing and cooking and all that stuff.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Mary, what about you? So 25 years career. So you were kind of like at the point where I was when I was like in the throe of not enjoying my clinical day. Tell us about how things were going for
Yeah.
you.
I mean, I think the creep was slow over time, right? Because when I was in residency, it was all paper and pen and there was no inbox and like all these things. I woke up one day and was blown away by how much more work I had 25 years in than I seem to have, right out of residency. And I think we were like all of my coworkers were kind of in the same boat. Like none of us knew any other way. And so it wasn't until I was introduced to someone who said that they never charted at home. And I was like, what? Because really my weekends are where I caught up on everything, right? I mean, I love seeing my patients. I loved educating the residents. And I wrote not a thing until the weekend, and the older I get, the less I remember on the weekend, right? So it was mind boggling to me.
Mm, yeah. Were you doing any work in the evenings as well?
Yes, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think I would either do notes in the evening or inbox in the evening, and the other I'd do on the weekend, right? Whichever. So I mean, I really, other than taking care of kids, I had no other life, right? And all those things you're talking about, all your hobbies and your freedom and and I think there was that old school part of us that was taught that that was, good doctors did that. Good doctors, gave their whole life to their career and almost didn't
Hmm.
realize there was another way to be a doctor, right? So it was quite exciting to discover there are options.
When the EMR came out, for me personally, I know there was no remote access. So we weren't able to access
Hmm.
from home. What did it look
Yeah,
like then to complete the work week for
I know.
you?
So then it was a mess because dropping kids off at school and picking kids up after school really didn't leave the option of go in early and work on it or stay late. And so yeah, I don't even know how I did notes back then. Very not well, not well.
Yeah. And what else were you doing that wasn't just seeing patients and closing charts? So in regards to in baskets, referral letters.
Yeah,
uh,
I no, go ahead. No, I think the thing is, I think one of the biggest learnings was to not let people interrupt me all day because being friendly and chatty, every nurse, oh, this lady, oh, and I would always want to stop and help. And so it would interrupt everything. And I had no idea that, I could get them to come back at a certain time and give, them all that love and attention. Anyway, it's this idea of these infinite possibilities. And I only saw the one way we did it. And when someone came to ask you, you helped them, and, you didn't redirect them because you didn't even think about that. So I think
Yeah.
cutting down on interruptions is huge.
Yeah, totally. Then around COVID time, so 2020, we kind of
Mhm.
had added to us, and I'm not sure if this was your experience as well,
Mhm.
new ways of communicating with us. So we got these like wonderful email options from patients and patient portals and messages. I'm not sure if you were having them before that, but for me, it was a during or post COVID, we started to have the online telehealth other portal options. What was your experience?
Mm. Luckily I don't have a huge, um, we do have a portal, but my patients are mostly monolingual Spanish speaking immigrants, and they
Okay.
don't have a portal. So, I mean, at home, they don't have computer access. So they're
Okay.
mostly not messaging. So,
Okay. Okay. So that wasn't a
mhm,
big part of what was happening for you.
mhm.
Are you Spanish speaking too? Are you bilingual or do
Yes.
you have
Hmm.
that? Okay. Okay. Because I
Hmm.
know some of the physicians that we look after inside the program don't necessarily have the bilingual skills, and then they're adding
Yeah.
translators or
Yeah.
other family members in the room to try and coordinate some of that patient care. So yeah, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What were you missing out on? So this is 25-year career. What were you missing out on that or what made you be curious about, I want different than this?
I think I just really, I don't know, you get to that. I think in the beginning, career was such a huge, like it was a life calling, right? To be this doc. And I worked with the undocumented immigrant population out of a like love for it, and it was sort of my whole dedication. And I think it's that second half of the career where suddenly it's like, this is your one and only precious life. What else? Like hobbies that you had in undergrad and, even in med school, just sort of all disappeared in this part of life, and it was raising children and working and nothing else. And I was like, I don't want that. I need, I want to travel, I want to do art, I want to get out in nature, and I was not figuring out how to fit that in.
Okay. Okay. So that was your kind of pressure about, is this it?
Yeah, that was exactly is this all there is to it? There's got to be more, right? So
Gotta be more. I want more. I want some fun
I want
back.
more.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
Perfect.
I got to
Okay.
the point where I was going to quit, right? I can't see doing this for another 20 years, right? can't,
Ah, okay.
I
What
can't
were
see
the
how I can
biggest
hang on.
reasons that I can't see myself doing this for the next 20 years? What were the biggest reasons that were coming up for you that I need to leave?
I think I just didn't feel anymore. It's almost like, I don't know, it wasn't giving me the same excitement it gave me when I was younger. It wasn't, I think I more wanted a job, and I wanted, um, not it to have my whole heart and soul and all my waking hours. And I loved that chapter when it did, but I was like, if, this is the second half, I want to find other things. And I could not begin to name what they were going to be, right? I just knew there had to be something else. And I think that was the biggest thing. It's like, if I free up space, maybe I'll figure out what the other things are, but I didn't even know what I was missing. I just knew there had to be
Yeah,
something else.
that's so interesting. I just
Mm.
want a job. Isn't that fascinating that I just
Mm.
want a job
Hmm.
that's got contained hours and I get to
Hmm.
go, leave it behind? Had you had any ideas about what you would do instead? Like, had you started the curiosity of what could I do if I couldn't do this?
Yeah, I had, and I really, yeah, I mean, I think it was super interesting that I didn't have an answer for it. I mean, all the things I wanted to do didn't pay, right? Didn't give me an income. And so, yes, I'd like to be a world traveler, and yes, I would like to, be a photographer and an artist, and but none of that was going to pay my rent or my mortgage. So, um, but then I realized, like, I mean, it was shocking to me when I figured out how to contain the job. I realized I don't, right, all those things, I can be any of those things because they don't have to make me any money. At first I thought I had to quit the job and do something totally different. And it's like, no, if I contain the job, then all those I don't have to worry about if they're money generating. They're just things that fill
Yeah.
my soul, and they really,
Yeah.
so
That's so good.
yeah.
I love that. I love that. Okay, we're going to come back to how you found the magic because I really want to hear that story. Javiz, I want to come back to you for a moment. So tell us then what it looked like to go looking for answers and what that transition for you looks like.
That's a good question. So starting off, like again, I had a really good support system at work, and my husband was the one who reminded me it was not okay. So I was like, okay, step one, this is not okay. Step two, what am I going to do about it? So I talked to people at work, and they basically just said like, oh, like it just takes time. And it just takes time. Like you're new to your practice, you're new to, seeing 20 patients a day, because I wasn't seeing that in fellowship. Like you'll get a rhythm and it's just going to take time. And I was like, well, like I get it, but I wanted an answer now. So I reached out to another physician and I talked to her, and she basically said it took her like a year or two to kind of get her bearings and stuff. I don't think I was being impatient. I think I was being proactive. And it's like, other than practice, like what can I do now to make some changes? And the thing that was really interesting about just this whole charting champions experience, because I was trying to explain this to an administrator who had no clinical background, is I was like, you know what? It was really just a change in mindset. Like it's nothing that I didn't know, but just shifting how I think about things made such a world of a difference. And like Mary was saying, I was like, oh, like it just sounds so can like it's not that easy, but it kind of is at the same time. So just the shift in mindset was what made a huge difference. But in getting to that point, I think it was just like talking to my peer and having her kind of, because she was a year ahead of me. So she had a 1 year more experience than I did. And she was struggling her first year and I was struggling my first 6 months. So we kind of put our heads together and came up with something.
Yeah, yeah. When you started making changes in your day, where did you start? What were some of the things you remember doing differently than you had done before?
That's a good question. It was a really big deal finishing the note before I moved on to the next patient. And usually going back, looking in hindsight, like I only needed like 2 minutes more, like when I was done with a patient, if I had just waited another minute and a half or 2 minutes, I would have finished the note. But it was really just that discipline. And I think, I don't know if it was you or someone else on Charting Champions, but another phrase that stuck with me was sit in the discomfort. Because boy, I was uncomfortable. And it took me acknowledging, like, okay, Jabiz, you are uncomfortable and this is okay. And we're going to work through this together and be uncomfortable and learn from it. So just like those, just a couple of phrases that really stuck with me. But that was the biggest thing of being okay with being uncomfortable to make a better change was key.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Is there anything else early on that you remember was different or you started doing in a different way?
So what Mary said, I had less interruptions, but I didn't realize like, and I'm lucky enough that I have my own office, but I started closing my office door. And like being a physician and maybe, I don't know, being a woman or be just wanting to be accessible, like I saw that as a very unwelcoming thing to do. But I was very surprised at how everyone was super receptive. And even if they wanted to come in, they would always knock. And that small change gave me half an hour in the morning to just wipe out my in basket, which was huge.
Yeah, very good. Okay, beautiful. All right, Mary, let's hear it from
Mhm.
you.
I mean, I was shocked. When I listened to the modules, I was blown away because it seemed like, module after module, it was just speaking to my day, my life. Like, how does she know that? I don't know. I guess I had not sat around chatting with other people about charting before, right? I had no idea that these were the obstacles and these were the things. And then, I started going for walks, and that's when I would listen to the Charting Champions calls, and just listening to all of the women. I mean, I guess there are guys too, but mostly women, talking through their day and their existence and the changes they made. I was just blown away how it was such a common thing. And I'll never forget one day when somebody was talking, and I remember Noelle asked her something like, well, or said, offered up the thought, you could slowly change this little by little, week by week, month by month, and, spend a year or two making these changes. Or you could just decide to change it today and, never leave another note unclosed. And my mind was blown. And I was like, what? You could just, like, I was truly thinking it was going to take a couple years. And I just said, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm just never going to, I'm going to sit and be squirmy and be like, oh my God. And like you just said, 2 minutes to finish the note. And, that was probably 4 weeks into charting champions. And suddenly I'd say 95% of the time, the charts are just done after the patient. Like, I am the person who closes every chart. I mean, I think you guys both say it, right? One of you says, see the patient do the chart. And one says, I'm a physician who closes the chart after every patient. I mean, these are like, well, yes, that is now who I am. And that blew me away that you could do it like that if you wanted. That was shocking. And I think, so that was just done. Like in a month in, the notes, I no longer have to, 5% of the time something comes up, but 95% of the time I don't have that, and it's more the inbox and these other things that don't have such a quick, easy rule about how and when to do it. But that made all the difference in the world. I mean, not pondering charts anymore. It's like we can now battle the inbox and find. And the other one that was big was the inbox I did between every patient. Let's do 1 or 2 between every patient so that maybe by the end of the day I'll have made progress, and didn't realize at all how much that derailed me. So just having the chart done and then a chunk of time either before or after to do my inbox has made it, I mean, so it's just the same amount of work, but in so much less time. So that's shocking to me. I thought I had to look for more time, and really I just had to reorganize.
I think that's so valuable to say. I thought I just needed more time and I just needed to reorganize. And I think that's really important understanding that this is individual. It's appropriate to your clinical environment. It's done in your way and at your pace, but it is that commitment to, we try and contain this to the job hours for you.
Yeah, I'm not giving it more time. And I'm
not giving it more time like that.
Yeah.
I love that. I want to ask you about the statements that Jabiz was given early in her career, Mary, because you see a lot of, because you're faculty for residents, this statement given to her in her first 6 months that this is just how it is. It just takes time. Tell me what you think of those statements that we tell our juniors.
I hear a lot of faculty say things like that. And I probably was guilty of that too. But
Does it
hear
just
myself,
take time though? Because you were 25 years in.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. I think it takes modeling. It takes being exposed to a different thought. I mean, really the uncoupling, I was completely linking the amount of time I spent in the room with the patient with the quality of care I delivered. So I had to keep staying in there, and I had, because I was someone who gave great quality of care, and uncoupling that and realizing that the quality of care could be in 6 minutes. It didn't have to be in 25 when the visit's only 15, right? That blew my mind also. I just, once I caught on to that, and once I really, it's almost like selling myself on that. It's better care to do less things and to take care of myself and to show up with a better attitude tomorrow, because when it all gets strung out over my weekends and nights in the room, I'm kind of bitter, and it's not your fault, but I'm bitter at you. I'm bitter at the system, so I think uncoupling that and saying I'm only doing the one thing today or the 2 things, and I'm out of there and I'm done, and I'm happier and nicer to the next patient. I think all that sort of blew my mind. And so I try to tell the young residents these days that more is not always better, and that, the quality is not the number of minutes in the room. I think that's,
I love it.
and they are so much more idealistic, right out of in residency than I am at this point. And they want so much to do the best for the patient. And it blows their mind when I say maybe the best is to do less things and, bring them back. And they're blown away. And I think it takes a while for them to grasp it. When they do, they feel that same freedom that I now feel, because I think otherwise they think I'm just trying to cut corners and I'm old and burnt out and I want, I don't care so much about the great care they're trying to provide. And I think selling them on the fact that it is better care, if they're better taken care of, they're providing more compassion and more empathy. And
That's interesting. Because something else that I had to unlearn from training, because I'm internal medicine based, and then I went into
Mm-hmm.
endocrinology, was it was grounded in me that like you are the quality of your note, and people read your note before they meet you. So the more thorough your note is, the more highly they think of you, and that was the crux of my
Mm,
training. And then in fellowship, they're
mm.
like, think out loud, think in your note. The longer your assessment and plan, the better student you are. So that was another
So
barrier.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
The
and then I
B
was
minus
listening.
charting,
Yeah.
right? The B
And
minus charting, when I heard that, my mind was blown, but I
yeah,
immediately thought of our program director who ran this residency for the last 30 years and is the most admired physician in our whole group, right? She's just retired, but everyone who hears her name, and her charting is B minus charting, and she is the most admired physician. And once I put those two together and I said, look for her note, see what she wrote, because everyone thinks the world of her, and
yeah.
she wrote the very few little things, and that I'd never really noticed. So yeah, unlearning that I think helped me a lot.
That Jabiz, you identified yourself as a graduate of Charting Champions. So tell us, and we know that you've got ability to come back and get
Yeah.
help whenever you need it. But tell us what that means for you. So what does it look like to do your job as an endocrinologist day in, day out? That is, that is you now. Tell us about life at the
I would
moment.
say so. So I'll get into work. I'll work through my in basket. I'll see my patients. I'll finish my chart after each patient. And honestly, knock on wood, like I've had the luxury of leaving like half an hour early just because depending on how the day goes when I get my work done. It's been really, really nice. And I guess the reason I call myself a graduate, so I joined the program 6 months in. I listened to all of Sarah's modules. I was on a lot of Zoom calls, and it's really nice learning from the other members as well. I was not an active participant on a regular basis, but sometimes something that some coaches said resonated with me, and I kind of took little nuggets home with me and switched some stuff around, which was nice. But I'll still listen to the podcast once in a while, like on Spotify, and I'll touch base. But I think the reason I call myself a graduate, I would say, is I just feel like I get my charts done, I get my in basket done, and the very rare things I choose to do on my own time, I choose to do. And that's another thing I learned from Sarah. She's like, if you want to wait and do this later, say, I'm choosing to do this later, not life happened and I'm forced to do this later. So that was another good mindset. So I just feel like I have the tools that I need, but the group's always here if I need to come in on another call once in a while.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to hear what it sounded like to have a clinical day that felt easy, might not be the right word, but contained or
Let's say in
predictable or
control.
certain.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I controlled my clinical day. So I'll come in the morning, I'll say hi. Like I make a point to say hi to everyone and then I close my door and that's like a quick hi. And then I'll work through my in basket. And then by the time my first patient comes, I've gotten to a good point. I'll run through my patients. I'll have a break during lunch. And sometimes, I'll eat lunch with coworkers or I'll kind of work through my in basket. And then by the end of the day, depending on if patients don't show up or gaps open in my schedule, I'll kind of do the miscellaneous things to the point where my work gives me a laptop and I used to take it home on a regular basis. And now I can just log off and leave the computer at work, which is really nice too.
Yeah, that's really lovely. Thank you for showing us what it looked like now. Like this is you in practice, having that sustainability of your day that feels in control. So it's a really nice showing of your day to us. Mary, tell us about
Yes.
you and how it's going for you.
I I mean, it's funny. I love still accessing. I mean, I guess I would consider that I've graduated in terms of I am so much better prepared for my day,
Mhm.
maintaining, but I just love to listen to the episodes because I think one of the big things is trying to get 27 residents, corralled. They all have very different approaches. So what I picked and what I use, some of them, that's not their way. And so just listening to different physicians come on, and I'd hear something, oh, I wouldn't do it. But then I offer that up to a resident and they're like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. And so it's like, keep being exposed to infinite possibilities is huge. I also absolutely love the little episodes at the beginning of Noelle's podcast where she does some sort of sharing. I mean, that woman does more courses and reads more books than I will ever do. And she brings the little wisdom from it, right? And it really is. It's like a chance to examine life, not just work life, but home life. And, once you're living that examined life, you're like, where are the opportunities for improvement? And when work improves, outside life improves. When outside life improves, work improves. So I just love, it's this ongoing process of looking for new nuggets and new opportunities. And so, yeah. I would go for these 45-minute walks every morning before work, and it's in my little ear and I'm gathering a new something, and it's so fun.
That is so fun. That is super fun. I love that. And what Mary's describing is the inside the membership. We have the private podcast, which is all of our coaching calls and guest speakers, which you can access so that you can hear other physicians working on their clinical day or learn new skills from different experts that we bring into the program. We talk about all sorts of things like access improvement, executive functioning, ADHD strategies, all the things. Mary, what does your day look like now that you have a job?
I know it is freedom. I mean, I go in early. I give myself, I'm much better morning person than night person. So I give myself the first 30 minutes for the inbox, and I very much clear out anything that's emergent, right? That's all done. There's might be still a few things in there, but everything's nicely tucked away. And then I see patients up until lunch. And because I'm doing all the notes at lunch, I go for a walk. And that is, I've never
Amazing.
left the office building during the day, right? I would stay until, and in the winter, right, when you leave, it's dark. And so it was like, wow. So the little mid-time half-hour walk is heavenly. Some days I walk longer, some days I come back and finish up the inbox, with whatever else, because I'd rather do it then than at night. And then in the afternoon, more patients, or I precept. I still haven't quite mastered, right? I haven't gotten the residents to always finish their note before they leave. So those notes, I try to make a little, I make my note, but I can't fully make my note because I don't really know what they're going to chart because they haven't. Anyway, so I try so hard. Don't present until you've, written something, but then they just disappear and you're like, where'd they go? Where's my note? So sometimes those pop into my box, days or weeks later. And I'm like, what patient? What did I write? Who? So I'm still working on how to help them get them to me within that day, or within 24 hours. So within something where I can still remember who they were. But otherwise I go home and I don't log on at night, and I don't log on the weekends, and it is contained. And now I'm finding hobbies, and I've become a painter. It's like so exciting.
That is exciting. Yeah. Tell us about things that you do now that you couldn't do before. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I started painting because I'd always wanted to paint, but I never painted. And I went online and I like, where do you start learning to paint? I found this painting course in Oaxaca. So I went to southern Mexico to paint for a week with a bunch of middle-aged women. And then I went to Italy this summer to paint with other women. And now I just, I paint some afternoons at home. And I don't know, I've started doing so much more nature. Like nature is so grounding, and there was quote unquote no time for nature. I mean, luckily my children are now 18 and 21, right? So I don't have the little ones anymore. And containing my job into the hours, I just feel like there's lots of time. And so I'm still looking for what else, besides art and nature. Those are my current two, but I'm like, there must be more. I've got to keep searching for them. So yeah, it's very exciting. It is that I need to read the book. I keep hearing about this second mountain, but it's like the second half of life. What am I going to do that's different than the first half? And I'm on that search now, and really work
and it's a
mostly
progress.
feels
So it's not that we're expecting perfect about our clinical days. It's not that we expect you to stay perfect. There's always going to be challenges that come up. There's always new innovations and pivots to happen within medicine. We know that. But it's the ability to be able to tackle it, redesign it, contain it, and have that big life outside of medicine. Jabiz, anything about your outside of medicine life that you're doing differently now?
I think I was really able to put myself first in terms of like my health. I decided to learn how to swim as an adult, so that was a big deal. And I
Wow.
went from not knowing how to swim to swimming in a lap pool 3 days a week at the local gym. So,
That's
and that took
fantastic.
time. But I like my weekends are structured around what are my top 3 things? How do I take care of myself? And then I'll do whatever with the rest of the day. So I guess it's being able to put myself before my obligations, which are nice.
That's very lovely. I love that. Mary, tell us about if somebody was sitting there hearing this for the first time, like when you heard for the first time that it's possible to contain work to work hours, anything, any pearls of wisdom, any ideas to offer them about the possibility for themselves?
Yeah, I think you have to suspend the disbelief for a minute because everything that piled into my brain were all the reasons, all the things. My job must be so much different than everyone else's. I had a million and I had a lot of guilt. There was all, oh, our patients barely get time off of work if they come. You've got to do everything for them because they don't get paid on the days they anyway, just there was an excuse for everything. And the idea of that could be true and it's not helpful. So why keep telling yourself that? Or, you know, anyway, you just really had to let it go and you had to give it a try because I could think of all the reasons immediately that this wouldn't work. And it was only by trying it. And it was really by hearing people share their stories because people who are further along who would come on a call and say how much things had changed in a month. And I'd be like, what? And anyway, I just keep telling, and it's funny because a lot of the people at work say, oh, you seem so much happier. Oh, you seem less grumpy or, oh, and, then I try to tell them why. And they're sort of like, what? And so, I'm like, just give it a try. Just give it a try. I think you can't
Mm.
believe it unless you try it. And we have a couple of residents who've now signed up and are going through their modules and doing it. So I can't wait for some of them to have success because other residents will believe them, right? Probably more than the old attending. So if they can share their story once they
Mhm.
make the change.
But thank you for that. And Jabiz, what would you say to the new attending who is being told this is just how it is, it just takes time? What would you say to them if they're in
I
that
think it's like,
belief that this is just a
I mean, it's just gonna have to it takes time, but it takes effort, I guess is what I would say. Like you need to put the effort in, to make the change. And even if you don't know where to start, like, I don't know if it was a module or a charting coach call, but the shift in mindset that I had is, you know what, every day is a new day. And if I try something and it doesn't work, then I'll try something else the next day. Or I'll try something for half a day. And if it doesn't work, I'll try something else for the next half day. Like I have 20 patients and I have 20 chances to get this right. So if something doesn't work, we'll just find something else. And just, again, that shift in mindset, the infinite possibilities, the what else can I do? And just, I think finding a community, not to brainstorm, but just finding a community where a lot of us are going through the same thing to kind of brainstorm and come up with things together. Like I was on another call and something that someone said just resonated with me. And I was like, I didn't even know I had this problem until someone brought it up. So I guess what I would say to a new attending is find your group of people to support you. And if it's not at work, then the charting group is a great support system. Absolutely.
love it.
And
Thank you.
what you just said about the willingness, right? If you're willing to believe it's possible, and then you're willing to try all those pathways, like, you're gonna have success. If you're not, if you just keep arguing with reality and saying it can't be, or if you tried one thing and it didn't work, right? But there's people I see with success just stuck with it and kept trying, and
I
it's
got on
so
a call with
exciting.
Sarah once and I was like, Sarah, I hit a wall and I don't know what to do. She's like, what else can you do? I was like, there's nothing else. She's like, no, like, what else can you do? And I was like, actually, there is something else.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am so grateful for you both for your ability to share your story here, to be vulnerable and to be able to help others. So, anything we didn't talk about that you'd like to say before we close off for today?
No, I don't
No?
think so. I just suggest people give it a try, because it is unlike anything I have ever seen. It's not just a bunch of EMI. Like, when we get talks at work about efficiency and, this kind of stuff, it's a bunch of IT people telling you how to click faster or
Mhm.
skip a click, or, it's nothing about your mindset.
Yeah.
And I find those not very helpful as a non-techie person. I can't remember the 6 clicks, but I can remember to think about it differently. So it's
Yeah,
a great
yeah.
new way to look at things.
Yeah, a bit more about that clinical day reform rather than the
Just the high tech
yeah.
solutions.
That's right. Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. If you've been listening to this call and you're interested in learning more, then reach out to us so we can give you some more information about that. And thank you so much, Mary and Jabiz, for being here today. I really appreciate your time. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you for being part of the Sustainable Clinical Medicine podcast. If you'd like to learn more or join us to help you get home with today's work done, go to chartingcoach.ca. There you'll find all the information on the premier Lifetime Access Charting Champions program that is helping physicians get home with today's work done, with all the proven tools, support, and community you need to create time for your life outside of medicine. We would love to see you there. Until next time, thanks for listening.